Hi, welcome to Cubs and Culture for January 9th, 2018. I know I've been trying to flip back and forth between Cubs and Culture, but nothing has happened again in the off season, and I don't feel like forcing a baseball topic because there's going to be days during the season where I'm going to want to talk about the same thing, like baseball 2 days in a row. So I'm just going to do a culture today. As you can see, the movie we'll be discussing. Well, it's going to be partially about Hacksaw Ridge. I also want to have a couple other things I want to talk about the liberty of conscience. Okay, so let me just quickly talk about something that's very specific. Even if I didn't like Hacksaw Ridge as much as I did I'm really grateful for this film to exist because there's been this sound mixing guy whose name is Kevin O'Connell. Some movies he's done are Twister, The Rock, Top Gun, Pearl Harbor, The Spider-Man, with Tobey Maguire, Terms of Endearment, A Few Good Men, etc. The man is incredibly good at his job to the point where he's been nominated for 21 Oscars. And Hacksaw Ridge last year was when he finally won one. So I'm really grateful for him because, to lose, it's a bit like the Cubs World Series. He finally got one. It was somewhat shocking when it happened. Okay. So Hacksaw Ridge, which I'm going to spend most of this section just talking about this movie. Let me pause there for a sec. Hacksaw Ridge is this war film, going off to war film about this man named Desmond Doss. He's famous for being the first conscientious objector to win the Medal of Honor, which is the highest for courage under fire. He was a Seventh-day Adventist who refused to carry a rifle, but he ended up being a combat medic in World War II. And the battle he was involved in, Hacksaw Ridge, hence the title, he saved about 70 men without carrying a weapon. So the movie is, that's what the movie's about. The thing is, because of the way the screenplay is, and especially Mel Gibson's direction, it's basically the platonic ideal for a war film. It has so much breadth of the tropes or common themes in war films. So Doss's father is a World War I veteran, so at the beginning of the film, you kind of get the broken down old man, the domestic cost of war, and then you get the basic training section. Because he's a conscientious objector, you also get something of the notion of what does it mean to obey orders within the context of war. So you sort of get the lawlessness, the lawlessness of law contrasting with the regimented nature of military life and that tension. Then, of course, because you have the battles and it's Mel Gibson, it functions as a hyper-realistic battle scenes, very similar to Saving Private Ryan, which is why it's been quoted as saying the best war film, Saving Private Ryan. So in terms of what the movie is doing, it's basically like the perfect war film. And anything you can say that's sort of negative about the film, that glorifies war, or it might be dehumanizing of the enemy or anything like that. Most of the complaints I think people can have about this film aren't about the film, it's about the form itself. And so because of that, it's a really good, if I was teaching a film on film structure or something like this, I would use this as the example of a war film. Now, the main reason why I wanted to talk about it is Desmond Doss as a person and then as a character, sort of the main tension through here is he's not really a pacifist. He refuses to carry weapons and this is why he's a combat medic. So his conscience is telling him two different things. That one, he should serve in the military because of it being World War II, and he took it personally when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, etc. But then also he feels very strongly that he shouldn't be carrying a weapon. And the thing I really like about this movie is these two twin moral convictions of his. Not only provide like the drama, but they're not intellectualized for the character. He gets sort of the world the needing to battle in World War II comes because like his father was in World War I, his brother joins the army, a couple of his friends in the town he was at were 4F, weren't fit to serve, and they killed themselves. So he just so it comes across as like that he feels that he should join. Now, as far as not being a quasi-pacifist or refusing to call as a weapon, again, it's ultimately rooted in sort of his religious faith, but the faith isn't intellectualized or philosophized or all that. It's mystical or experiential for him. So, for example, in the early part of the movie, there is a scene where him and his brother are fighting, and when they're children, and he hits his brother with a brick. Also spoilers. So, like always, spoilers. So he hits his brother with a brick. His brother doesn't die, but he's severely injured. In the scene, he goes inside and he's really upset, and he ends up looking at a poster that has the Ten Commandments. And above "Thou shalt not kill" is Cain and Abel, to draw the parallel. And because of that, it feels much more like, I don't mean this in a negative sort of way. It feels like he has this deep religious conviction that he feels that he's not arriving at intellectually. So there's times in which in the movie where it feels like other characters are pointing out that he's not necessarily following the letter of the Bible, because of course "Thou shalt not kill" as a commandment actually means something closer to "Thou shalt not kill someone unlawfully" or "Thou shalt not commit murder." Which in war, of course, there's no such thing as murder from a certain perspective. Likewise, there's his father being a drunk veteran of World War I. There's a scene in where he makes the promise to God that he will not pick up a weapon. It's because his father was abusive towards his mother, and he ends up pulling a gun on his father, and he his intention in that moment was to kill his father, and it so repulses him that he promises God not to pick up a weapon again. And so it feels a lot of it being experiential, not sophisticated or thought out, which is fine. I want to return that. It's something that this is a conviction that he has, that he must serve in World War II and he must not touch a weapon. The movie is also well written enough to make sure there's times in which there's moments of either imperfection or hypocrisy. So, for example, at the absolute pinnacle of him being desperate during the battle to save someone, he ends up touching a rifle not as a weapon but as just a pole or something to wrap a blanket around and pull the sergeant off of. He also sort of extremely indirectly or sort of distal causally is involved in like he distracts a sniper at one point and someone else shoots them and stuff like that. So again, there's enough tension within the story that it feels like he's just that Doss is trying his best to live these convictions, and that's really what the movie is about. And it's very moving to me that this is the sort of character he is. And the thing is, and it has a lot to do with how Garfield plays him, is he comes across, I don't know how to say this where it doesn't sound insulting, but he comes across as simple in the best possible sense, non-legalistic. That he just has these convictions. That it's not about the legalistic nature of the arguments. It's just he has this feeling. I think it might be Gibson's best film, but it's certainly the best film I've ever seen that deals with the extent of liberty of conscience as its central argument or theme. Okay, because again, Doss as a figure, he wants to be involved in war, which is in its essence killing people. Force and fraud and war are the two cardinal virtues, to quote Hobbes. But at the end of the day, he's not interested in actually killing. So it's a very interesting, it philosophically interests me. So that's what I want to talk about the extent of liberty of conscience. I'll be back for part 2.